Happy Memorial Day to you guys. Well, Memorial Day weekend to the people out in the States that are probably on their nice boats and everything while I'm sitting here doing this. Yakuza Graveyard, released in 1976 by the director Fukasaku, who made Battle Royale, right before he passed away. But in this case, his foray into the Yakuza genre came up with this gritty movie in Yakuza Graveyard. So this is like the second Yakuza crime genre film that Radiance has released in the States, I believe. Graveyard, to me, is like the more grittier version of the two, of course. And it's very interesting how in like 10 years, where I believe Big Time Gambling Boss was made in 1966, where in just a span of a decade, everything has just completely changed. Whereas Big Time Gambling Boss, which is more of like a more morality sort of thing, where it's just you can't really trust the Yakuza or really kind of any institutions that are relied upon there. Otherwise, you're just going to take yourself out. Yakuza Graveyard is like, you can't trust any institution. You can't trust the cops. You can't trust the Yakuza. You can't trust essentially anything. And it's embodied in this character by the name of Kirawa, I believe the last name is, who is in this gang war between rivaling factions, but essentially like the police are in on the action as well, that we come to realize. And it's just this very like this stark sort of reality where like nothing can really develop, I guess. It's a very dark film. And whereas like Big Time Gambling Boss is a dark film, especially at the end of it. It was pretty deep. Yakuza Graveyard, just like it's pretty much just like stomp on the gas and just keeps on going, right? Now, I do think that the performance by the guy here who plays the detective, I think, was pretty good. The rest of the performances is just all right. It's sort of like I wouldn't call like Yakuza Graveyard a forgettable experience, because I do think that it has a lot of good things going for it. The first thing that I've noticed is like the very like I guess you could call it like experimental camera work, especially during the action scenes where like things are like tilted at like a 90-degree angle. And it's a very kinetic like film setup, which I prefer. I would rather you like take chances with the camera rather than just doing it just standing there, right? But in this case, like I think that it's also good and it's also bad, because you can kind of like see the amateurishness about it in some way. And even then, I do think that the film itself embodies this sort of wretchedness, this pain, this angst that essentially like all is lost, right? Whereas like where in like this film, to me, sort of like the characters and everything, it's like, especially like when the detective actually does try to do stuff right for people, he ends up messing up their lives in the process. So it's not like this sort of like, oh, this morality right is always going to be right constantly. No, I mean, it's always going to be a contradiction. There's always going to be some pain there. So in this sense, like, yeah, that's probably the best thing about Yakuza Graveyard, is that it gives you that sort of contradiction there. But in a sense, like the idea is just so like straightforward that the film kind of like not becomes a drag, but it's essentially like we kind of got the main idea by the mid of the movie. And I think that the characterizations of this actor was just like, especially by the end, well, not by the end, but in the middle scenes, whenever he befriends the Yakuza boss and fights him and everything like that, we kind of get a sense of like this wild, reckless abandon, that really he has no sort of code or instinct or anything like that. He's just like kind of just this dumbass detective. At least that's what I got from it. So in this case, like, it's cool that, you just have a normal person instead of like this, oh, I'm just a smart guy all the time, right? You kind of get like not overwhelmed, but you sort of like get, you sort of get like, what's the word here that I'm looking for? You sort of get very enraptured by that. Like, you always want your character to be like super smart and intelligent and everything like that. And this guy isn't, which I think was kind of a breath of fresh air in that sense. But especially by the end, where you want him to kind of get a clue, he never really does, right? So what we have here is a lost individual and a lost sort of, you know, way here. So I do think that for Yakuza Graveyard, if I really had to pick between the two Yakuza films that you would actually want to go and get, I would say Big Time Gambling Boss is probably the best, even though it has its own sort of problems with the melodrama and such. I do think that that's probably the better film. And Yakuza Graveyard, the best thing I could say about it is like it's gritty, it's, you know, it's no nonsense, it's, you know, this is what it is, and, you know, whatever. But I do think that like there probably have been better, you know, Yakuza films made instead of Yakuza Graveyard. But for the interested, especially like for fans of like the Battle Royale, the director, I mean, I would highly recommend this. So for like anyone that's like going out to purchase this is, I believe, like 20 something bucks on Amazon right now. So you can go ahead and get that. But those are my thoughts on Yakuza Graveyard. Definitely, like, you know, a very interesting film, but one that, like, you know, I kind of have reservations about. But that is my review here. Later in the week, I should be able to have something else out, and then after that, we'll finally have the edited stuff go on. So thank you so much, guys, for watching again. Like, support, subscribe, comment. Thank you so much.